Good morning and welcome to All Souls. I'm Don Dickey, a member of the congregation, also the chairman and secretary of the worship team. We are delighted that you are here with us in person today, and we would love it if you would check in on your social media to let others know you have joined us here. And then, if you would take a moment to silence your phone for the rest of the service. The isolation of the COVID pandemic has been difficult for all of us. As we rejoice in again meeting in person, let me remind you precautions that will help keep us safe. We are asking everyone to have your vaccination record verified in our database. To wear a properly fitting mask while you are inside, and not to eat or drink in the building. Be aware that there are exits on both sides the stage, and also at the back of Bragg Auditorium where you entered. Our services are broadcast on YouTube, including images of the congregation, with the exception of the chairs seated directly in front of the tech booths. Past services are archived on YouTube for viewing at your convenience. Assisted listening devices and other accessibility accommodations are available. Ask the ushers if you need these. Those who cannot yet be vaccinated by reason of age are invited to enter the building through the decorated arch from the patio into Conover Hall, where they will gather and be escorted into the service together with their teachers. Let us enter into a time of reflection, renewal, and fellowship together. Let us begin by extending a very warm welcome to those joining us online for this morning's service with the big wave of your hand. Welcome, everyone.
Good morning and welcome indeed. Welcome to this place of waiting together, to this season of anticipation, this first Sunday of Advent. The turkey feast is reduced to sandwiches. The holiday season of solstice celebration is begun in earnest. And so we light the first candle of Advent for prophecy and hope. Prophecy and hope for the ancient promise of the Son's return and of a time to come of peace, justice, and abundance for all people. It is part of our human nature that we are always waiting for something, that we live in expectation of change and the possibility of a better world. It is a practice of wisdom and spiritual growth to consider what it is, even in this very moment, that our hearts are looking toward. I am waiting for the first hard frost that will spell the end of the parsley in my window box. What are you waiting for? I am waiting for the birth of a child who may have the wisdom and love to save us all. What are you waiting for? I am waiting for the sound of silver bells and the familiar songs recalling the old, old stories. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the lamp of dedication to be lighted and blessed in the darkness of the year. What are you waiting for? I am waiting for the fragrance of fir tree and the enchantment of snowfall and colored lights. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the kindling of the Yule fire and the feast of blessing the turning year. What are you waiting for? I am waiting for Santa Claus to come down the chimney with an extravagance of gifts. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for families to gather once again in the long customs of love and need. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the promised Messiah to bend the arc of history toward kinship and justice. What are you waiting for? I am waiting for the dawn after the longest night of the year and the sun's return. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the sky to fill with stars and a song of peace, goodwill on earth. What are you waiting for? In this moment of the year, as darkness gathers and we wait for the promise of new light, we kindle once more this chalice, symbol of the heritage of our free faith. Like all the lamps of community through the ages of human history, in its light, may our hearts renew their courage and our spirits rise to make real the hope of a new and better world.
Good morning. My name is Isaac, and I light this chalice for acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations.
Candle at home, we hope that you will share in the chat where that flame is burning this morning as we join together in speaking the words of our covenant promise to each other in community. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Good morning.
I would unfortunately like to have the pleasure of reminding us that we still can't sing in the room. It's still too dangerous with coronavirus numbers so high. But hum all you want. Hum along with Tom and Shanna, or just hum along with Kendall and during the sermon, and just keep humming. It's all good this morning. Just keep humming. So the words will be on the screen for your reference, and Tom Lancaster and Shanna Jones are here this morning to help us out.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. In the darkest time, I'm gonna let it shine. In the darkest time, I'm gonna let it shine. In the darkest time, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Share this freedom light We're gonna let it shine. Share this freedom light. We're gonna let it shine. Share this freedom light. We're gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
This is a story told by a wise and famous writer named Isaac Bashevis Singer about the Jewish tradition of Hanukkah.
Hi. Long, long ago, life was much more difficult, and everyone had to work very hard, even children. Very little time to play, and gambling or betting was frowned upon, except on Hanukkah. Those 8 nights, children received small gifts of money and had permission to spend the evening playing dreidel, which is a kind of gambling with a little top that you spin. It was a little like having a very fun video game that you only get to play once a year. Children look forward to those 8 days the rest of the year, a very special time.
Well, this included 3 children who lived in the town of Bigorre in Poland. Their names were Etela and Pasela, the 2 little girls, and their brother Manis. They loved the coming of Hanukkah because their mother would make delicious potato pancakes and their father would give them Hanukkah gelt, and they would spend the whole evening playing dreidel. But then one year, both of their parents got sick, and in the spring, their mother died. Their father was not able to work anymore, and one by one, they sold all of the precious things they owned, their silver goblets and the candlesticks and the spice box for the Sabbath and the Passover plate.
But the one thing they hadn't sold was the Hanukkah lamp, with its 8 little cups of oil for the 8 nights of celebration. It was very old and beautifully made of silver. It had carved flowers and all the animals from Jewish legends, a lion, a deer, a leopard, an eagle. And when all 8 flames were burning, these creatures seemed alive with movement. When Hanukkah came that year, the little family were all sad. Their father was very ill. There was no money for pancakes or even bread, and certainly not money to play with. They were too proud to depend on charity from their people, though the children were hungry. Manes was ready to go sell their beautiful silver lamp, but his father said, "Wait until Hanukkah is over at least."
With a few of their last pennies, they bought a little oil for the lamp, and when evening came, Manes lighted the lamp by his father's bed, and his father said the blessing on the light. Then they set the lamp in the window, which is how it's supposed to be done, so that everyone can see and share in the celebration. Even though there was no money, the children got out their dreidel that they loved to play with, just to remember the happier days.
And then, just as they were feeling very miserable, there was a knock at the door of the house. Very loud and impatient, Manes opened the door, and there stood the squire of the village, the most important and richest man, the ruler of the town, in his long fur coat and fur hat. Manes was so astonished at seeing the squire at the door of his house that he didn't know what to say at first. The squire said, "I was just passing by on my sleigh when I saw the light of the beautiful lamp in the window. I have never seen anything of such exquisite workmanship. But why is only one of the holders lighted? And where are your parents? I want to talk to them about buying your lamp."
Finally, the boy found his tongue. "Please come in, Your Excellency," he said. "This is a great honor for us." The squire entered the room and could hardly take his eyes off the precious lamp. He asked more questions, and Manis explained to him all about the celebration of Hanukkah, how in ancient times the Jews had expelled the Greek tyrant from the city of Jerusalem and restored the temple there, and the miracle of the lamp oil that had burned for 8 days of their celebration, even though there was only enough oil for 1 day. He showed the squire how each night one more of the lights in the lamp would be burning until on the last day, all 8 of them would be lighted. Attila and Priscilla, wanting to help, they brought the dreidel out and explained the special game that they could only play at this time of the year.
Well, said the squire, couldn't we play just a little since I'm here? I would like to see how the game works. But we have no Hanukkah gilt to play with, said the girls. Our father is sick, and our mother has died, and there is no money for food or celebration. That's easy, said the squire. I will give you 1,000 gold pieces for your wonderful lamp if you will sell it to me, and I will give you half now and half when the festival is over, and I return to take the lamp home with me. Surely you can play with 500 gold. And he took the money out of his pocket and put it on the table.
Well, now the children forgot their hunger and their sorrow because they wanted to be kind to the guest, and anyway, they loved to play dreidel. And my goodness, did they have a game. They laughed and teased each other whenever anyone lost, and before long, the squire was laughing, and they were teasing him too. But of course, he had never played the dreidel game. And the poor man, while the children, they'd been playing all of their lives, and by the time one light in the lamp had burned itself out, the squire had lost all of the money he had with him, which was more gold than the children had ever imagined was in all the world, and they won every coin from him.
At last, he gave a great laugh and cried, "Well, lost is lost, and I have money at home. My driver and my horses must be getting very cold. Good night, children. Happy Hanukkah, and don't worry about your father. With God's help, he will soon recover." And with that, he went quickly out the door and jumped into his sleigh.
The children could not believe the pile of gold coins on the table, enough to feed them for weeks. Manis ran outside to say thank you, but the sleigh had vanished with no tracks in the snow, and there was no jingle of the horses' bells to be heard in the quiet night. Back in the house, his father awoke from a sound sleep, no longer sick unto death, and soon he was a well man again.
There are those who say that when the heaven sends the prophet Elijah to work a miracle, he always tries to make it look like a natural event. All I know is that the squire never came back to get the Hanukkah lamp, nor ever sent anyone to get it either, and it stayed in the family of Manis, Atel, and Pesile from that day to this. So you will have to make up your own mind about who the mysterious squire really was.
Tonight begins the 8-day celebration of Hanukkah, when people of the Jewish faith remember the miraculous victory of the resistance forces against their foreign oppressors in the land of Israel long ago. It is a time of beauty and happiness as they share the joy of their heritage and rededicate themselves to the wisdom and hope of their community. As in the story, each family lights a new light in a candle holder or lamp each evening until all 8 flames are burning in a row. They give gifts, eat special delicious foods, and say prayers of gratitude. Children look forward to those 8 days all the rest of the year, for it is a very special time. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah this year, so we are going to light 1 candle in our menorah. This is the shamas, or the servant candle. This is the first candle of Hanukkah. And we will hear the blessing of the light, as Jewish people do. And when that is over, then those who are going to their classes can leave.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah.
Praise to that which creates and sustains the universe, which gives order and meaning to our lives by calling us to faithfulness, and which inspires us to kindle these lights of shared memory and dedication. Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
Go now in peace, may love guide all your ways. Beauty be the blessings of your nights and days. Truth on your lips and kindness in your deeds. Faith to follow where the human spirit leads.
Good morning. The offering this morning will benefit the AIDS Service Foundation of Greater Kansas City and World AIDS Day. The AIDS Service Foundation helps provide education, prevention, awareness, shelter, and medical and emergency services to the over 5,700 men, women, and children who are living in the Kansas City area and are affected by HIV/AIDS. Please give as you are able. You can either give in person or online. If you're giving online, please hit the big blue button on the front page of the website and choose Special Offerings from the pull-down menu. Every dollar we raise stays right here in Kansas City. The AIDS Service Foundation has commissioned a mural to commemorate World AIDS Day and the continued fight for a cure. They have also given back to the community in 2 additional ways. The primary recipients are the Hope Care Center, Save Inc., and the Kansas City Healthcare Center. The foundation also has a community grant program to help smaller organizations whose work helps the education of our community in HIV risk and education of health options. December 1st is World AIDS Day. On December 1st, folks will gather here at All Souls for the community conversation about the virus, and we will learn how the face of HIV/AIDS has changed here in Kansas City. Following the community conversation, there will be patrons gathering at the Kemper next door or online at asfkc.org. Please visit with the lovely music director Anthony Edwards to find out more information about both events. Thank you for helping us pay your energy forward. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. But light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears.
Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, that anger will tear us apart. And light one candle to bring us together with peace is the song in our heart.
Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly? We keep it alive in that flame. What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? Have we come this far always believing that justice would somehow prevail? This is the burden and this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears.
Please join me in the dedication of the offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society. Thank you for your generosity.
Two things about the light of Hanukkah. First, put away your sewing. Set down the clock that is losing time and needs to be adjusted, the bank statements to be reconciled, the penmanship and spelling exercises to complete, the dried beans to sort by size. Look at the light. It is not to be spent in diligence, dutifully illuminating tasks, but seen. From the eye to the mind, to the memory, to the heart, to the soul. From beauty to gratitude to faith. Praise the light and the source of light. Be inspired. Do not use the light. Do not lose the holiness of this moment in the press of ought to be. It is forbidden to work by the light of these candles. Would you burn your lover's last letter for kindling? Watch the glow like jewels against the velvet of night sky. Waste this light in awe, as in the temple it is said they burned the oil, profligate for reverence and thanks. Blessed is the shaping of our lives by commandment and memory. Blessed is the light. Second, put the lamp in the window, in a doorway, on the balcony, in the front yard, on the village green, in Times Square. Release its beauty to public view. Do not hoard the light. It is not yours to gloat over in private. Wherever, whenever it is safe, announce the miracle. Invite the neighborhood to remember with you. Perhaps next door they only half recall the story from some dim childhood ritual. Perhaps your 4 flames, then 5, then 6, might wake their dedication anew. Or in the city of 1,000 names for God, or none at all, those faithful candles might remind the hurried and the fallen and the defeated of heart that beauty is yet possible, that the intention of higher purpose endures, even to rouse the captive mind to curiosity. What's the story with those lights is an opening for the work of Spirit. Testify. Let the tongues of flame bear witness to the world that miracles abound and joy abides. Blessed is the heritage of freedom. Blessed is the custom that illuminates our common darkness. Blessed is the sharing of the light.
Inema tovum anayim, shevet ahim gam yachad. Inema atom, shevet ahim gam yachad. How good it is and how pleasant for people to dwell together. How good it is and how pleasant for people in peace together. How good it is and how pleasant for people to dwell together. Inema tovum anayim, shevet ahim gam yachad.
These are exasperating days for communities of progressive political mind. Recent indictments and verdicts in the trials of those accused of vigilante murders and insurrection mayhem have served both to illustrate white privilege at its crudest and to suggest that supremacy culture might be showing cracks under the pressure of public outcry. On the one side, judicial idiosyncrasies seem to announce a sweeping renunciation of some of liberalism's most cherished ideals. and proposals to dismantle our long-standing national freedoms and painfully won protections for the vulnerable encounter too little popular opposition. Our nation stands poised on the brink of a fascist coup. Environmental self-restraint is despised, and the liberties and privacies of citizenship are at risk of being transformed by governmental fiat from promised rights into arbitrary privileges. Initiatives to reimpose prayer in schools, to expand and hasten the execution of criminals, to make abortion legally and practically inaccessible, to deprive gay and lesbian and transgender people of legal protection, to dismiss the needs of children in poverty, are advocated by public figures with no apparent political consequences. These are difficult days, at least on the political front, for the followers of Thoreau's distant drummer, and for the tradition committed to the rights of conscience and to justice, equity, and compassion as the basis of human relations. We have not saved the world as we supposed we could 50 years ago, if only the old fogies would get out of the way. They never really did, of course. Even when the liberal political agenda was at its zenith, the alternative ideologies were only lying low. And their resurgence now is made possible partly by their alliance with our own indignations and fears. Our own yearning for the experience of community, for an antidote to our sense of isolation, can tempt even us to renounce our commitment to freedom and to embrace the disciplines of group wisdom so that we may feel included, however ill-advised that group wisdom may turn out to be. Human communities never fully release their quest for certainty, even when they are most prosperous and most secure. And let that prosperity and that security be at all threatened or diminished, as in the recent past, and we will cling practically without any rational thought to what we think we know. One of the continuing tensions within our own free church tradition has to do with whether there is an orthodoxy of political views to which we expect our members to subscribe. When we are asked this question explicitly, many of us, and myself included, are loud in our protestation that there is not, that you can be a Republican or a conservative, a supporter of the police, and still be welcome in our religious fellowship. And I would maintain that this in itself is or should be true. Indeed, I believe that we would do well to acknowledge that many questions of political policy are more complex than the liberal mindset is quick to assume, and that freedom may have implications of responsibility that can be sometimes too easy to gloss over. Nevertheless, I would suggest that there is a particular form of political commitment inherent in our religious covenant, and that there are certain views that are not and should not be welcome in our churches. It seems to me that what we have agreed to in giving our allegiance to the Unitarian Universalist heritage of faith is a commitment to meet the world around us in compassion rather than fear. In compassion rather than fear. Those political convictions which have their roots in fear and their fruits in suffering cannot be reconciled with liberal religion. That God hates fags, that unequal treatment of blacks is justified, that abuse is a woman's inevitable destiny, that torture can be used as a military expedient. These options need not be held in equal value with their opposites in our congregations. We must always be prepared to present rational and persuasive arguments against them and to respect the dignity of those individuals who hold them. But we can and should take for granted that these ideas have been rejected among ourselves. Such a basic agreement, I would argue, still leaves room for a great deal more difference of opinion regarding the most effective ways to define and achieve human well-being than we may have often demonstrated our willingness to engage. These are challenging days, I think, for those who would live by compassion rather than fear. And thus, we gathered this morning to renew our vision and commitment. We gather in the fragile and precious light of this Hanukkah candle to celebrate the courage and the faith, which are no less rare today than they were in the 2nd century before the Common Era. Those were desperate days for the loyal Jews of Jerusalem, confronted by the Greek Seleucid ruler Antiochus Epiphanes and his attempts to exterminate the religious traditions of Israel. Their long-running resistance movement, which culminated in a brief period of independence for Judea, set the stage for the rededication of the Jerusalem temple when it was captured from the Syrian forces in 165 before the Common Era. The legends tell of the one remaining vial of sanctified lamp oil, which burned beyond all expectation for 8 nights of celebration. But that is a pious fable. The true miracle of the story, which is the recurring miracle of all human faith, was the commitment and sacrifice of those who would not bow down to idols and who would not rest until their freedom to worship the God they knew as true was restored. That struggle is never fully won, either in the world or in our own hearts. It is not so much that we are afraid, that is inevitable. We are all afraid, and justifiably so. It is part of the human condition. We are mortal. Our happiness is transient. Our security is fragile, as we all have reason to know. Judah and Matthias Maccabee were determined but afraid. Everyone who ever lit a Hanukkah candle in a land of oppression was afraid. The struggle is not to be without fear. The struggle is to choose to meet the world with compassion and dedication anyway. The poet Emma Lazarus writes, "Kindle the taper like a steadfast star, ablaze on evening's forehead o'er the earth, and add each night one luster, till afar an 8-fold splendor shine above the hearth. Clash, Israel, the cymbals, touch the lyre, blow the brass trumpet and the harsh-tongued horn, chant psalms of victory, till the heart take fire, the Maccabean spirit leap newborn." The saints have taught that perfect love casts out fear, and they may be right. Most of us never achieve perfect love, so I don't know. But I do know that the covenant commitment to compassion calls us to live beyond our fear, calls us to walk past the impulse to protect ourselves inside narrow walls and out into the embrace of life itself. It calls us into compassionate community with those whose broken lives will turn out to be not so different from our own brokenness. It calls us to share even what we think is not enough when others have less. It calls us to the various ministries that we each have the power to perform. It also calls us to a public witness of this way of life in religious community, and to a tireless welcome to those who search for a community that affirms such freedom and reason as we offer. The thing I did not learn for a long time about Hanukkah candles is that they are supposed to be set in a window or some place that passers-by will see them. Their witness is not merely to the celebration of a community's own history, but a claim to the world as a whole. A great miracle happened here, the letters on the dreidel proclaim. And the lights of Hanukkah are meant to invite everyone to be astonished by the power of faithfulness that can change the course of history. There has been a cluster of interest and demand around the concept of spirituality in our churches in the last couple of decades. And I have contributed at least my nickel's worth to this discussion, in part because spirituality seems to identify something that was missing from the Unitarian Universalism of the 1960s in which I grew up. I think that our humanist tradition gains in authenticity and power when we recognize the pervasive human longing for an experience of depth and meaning that is something more than intellectual assent. In moments of celebration and covenant, in the rituals of light giving that recall past triumphs and renew present courage, as do the Hanukkah candles, we are in touch with that force, that breath of life that moves within and among us, bringing a sense of sacred meaning. Whether or not we understand those forces which create and uphold life to be incarnated in a self-conscious personal deity, do we not know the feel of the holy moment? Do we not know what it is to lose our hope and find it again in the simplicity of a symbolic act that reawakens the call to courage and to compassion within us? This is the function of spirituality properly understood, that it gives us the resources to lead more abundant lives, to be gracefully faithful to the covenant of compassion by which we endeavor to live, even in the face of the fear and the anxiety all around us. One of our British Unitarian comrades has offered this definition of faith: not belief in spite of the evidence, but adventure in scorn of the consequences. Not belief in spite of the evidence, we've always known that, but adventure in scorn of the consequences. Now, this may be a stronger statement than we want to endorse completely. I believe there are consequences to our actions which must not be scorned, like their impact on others. Nevertheless, I think it points in the right direction. Faith for our tradition is not about the content of what we believe, but about the courage and generosity with which we live. The remarkable thing about the story of the lamp fuel, as I read it, is not the alleged divine intervention which supposedly allowed the small amount of oil to burn for 8 days. The truly remarkable thing is the human story. That's what I'm always interested in. In this case, it is the decision of the refugee community to have their celebration anyway, and to go ahead and light the lamp with the oil they had, that fascinates and moves me. For isn't this always the way? Isn't it always when we give what we have, when we make celebration and praise, even in the midst of uncertainty, even in the dark days, that wonderful, unexpected things happen to renew our courage and restore our hope? And isn't it just when we choose generosity and kindness over the impulse to cynicism that the human spirit rises in its greatest dignity and possibility? Perhaps it is not so much adventure in scorn of the consequences as it is compassion in the scorn of our fear that is the faith that we long to see made real in the world. So what I wonder this morning is, have we put our Hanukkah candle in the window? Have we made public the bright witness that we raise as a community of memory and promise within the darkness of fear, oppression, and greed? Have we put our light on the windowsill where it can illuminate not just our own gatherings, but the world? It is when we choose to be generous and to burn the little oil that each of us may have that together we testify to the saving potential of Unitarian Universalism. We need to put our candle in the window so that the world may know of our hope even in the darkening days. In the darkening days most of all, we need to let that light call us all to transcend our frozenness when we are afraid, to keep the covenant of compassion that is our hope for wholeness and peace on earth. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with thy commandments and commanded us to light the lights of Hanukkah. Or, translated into the humanist idiom, praise to that which creates and sustains the universe, which gives order and meaning to our lives by calling us to faithfulness, and which inspires us to kindle these lights of shared memory and dedication. Praise to the light that shines in the darkening days, the candles that we place in our windows for a testimony to the world. Praise to the courage that is kindled in human hearts by that light. Praise to the compassion that calls us to connection beyond fear. Praise to the faith that lights the light ever and again in poignant memory, in mourning, in celebration, in desperate need, in yearning hope, in vision of the life that could be. Praise to those who stand among us, living the covenant in generosity and dedication, luminous as beacons to call us on, for their light shines in the darkness, and all the darkness in the world has never and can never put out that light.
Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning, for the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary, for the time is drawing nigh. Freedom struggle still before us. Freedom struggle still before us. Freedom struggle still before us. For the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. For the time is drawing nigh. Be the light in the darkness. Be the light in the darkness. Be the light in the darkness. For the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. For the time is drawing nigh. Soon the dawn will come breaking. Soon the dawn will come breaking. Soon the dawn will come breaking. For the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. For the time is drawing nigh.
Children, don't grow weary. All the 8 days of Hanukkah, these candles are holy. We are taught not to use their light for ordinary purposes, but only to look at them, to appreciate and to praise the miracles of life, the wonders of creation, and all that makes us holy and whole and blessed. These lights we kindle in gratitude for the miracles and the wonders and the victories that were performed for our ancestors in days of old at this season. We keep them trimmed and burning in memory of dedicated servants of the Most High and holy prophets in every generation, and all who have kindled the flame of inspiration, hope, and peace for humanity. We release this flame, sending the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment out into the world. For these we also carry in our minds and hearts until we are together again. So let us go forth in peace and courage.
Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our